Also, he's really talking about first language acquisition here too. He's not really talking about second language acquisition. Okay? But the question is then, so does this universal grammar or language acquisition device remain active for second language acquisition? So Chomsky was talking about first language acquisition. Can we still use this LAD for second language acquisition? Is it still available to us? Is it something that only works as a child? When you're older, can you still access that part of your brain? What do you think? Do you agree that there's a...
some can and some cannot.
Some can and some cannot?
Because now we talk about the intelligence,
Okay.
the human intelligence, right?
Okay.
So some people are born with some part of their brain that can learn the language or the social studies very well, and some cannot. Or like you said before, when we learn language well, we cannot have a good brain for math.
Okay.
Okay, so some people, when they focus on math or when their mind is fossilized, that they can learn natural subjects very well. That means they can learn social studies, languages, arts very well.
That's a great point. With the pendulum, one of the theories that came in was the theory of multiple intelligences, right? And so we found that language is a type of intelligence. And so not everybody is gifted and talented with that type of intelligence, right? So some people have better access to it than others. What do you think?
I think people who say that they're not good at learning English because they don't.
Motivation is very, very important, right? Effort. People used to ask me all the time, well, how long does it take to learn English? Depends on you, right? Yeah, how much do you try? How much effort do you put into it? How bad do you want it, right? So motivation, time, effort, diligence, intelligence, there's so many different factors, right? So there's two different responses to this question. There's the fundamental difference hypothesis, which says no, it's no longer available. We can't use it, it's different. L1 acquisition is different from L2 acquisition, and we no longer have access to universal grammar.
Those who have difficulties understanding the question.
So the question is the language acquisition device, or is universal grammar, is whatever it is in our mind that makes language learning innate, is for our L1, is that still available when we want to learn in L2? Can we still access that? So there are two different responses, two different schools of thought. One says no and the other says yes. They disagree. So the fundamental difference hypothesis says no, that learning in L1 is different from learning in L2. They're not the same and it's no longer available to us. And the access to universal grammar hypothesis says yes, we still have access to it. So later when we want to try and learn our L2, we are able to access that thing that makes language innate in people. So what do you think? Which do you think is true?
I have a question.
What's that?
What is the purpose of getting this idea in the first place?
Sure. What's the point? Okay, so the point is do you think that we're still able to learn language regardless of whether it's our first language or not? As language teachers, we're concerned with second language acquisition. Are people still able to learn another language because they're human? We're just looking at humans, right? We're looking at how people learn languages. So we're trying to answer this question. How does language acquisition occur? It's a very complex field, right? We talked about this yesterday. There's psychology, there's sociology, there's anthropology, there's brain learning theories, right? There's so many different ways of looking at it. How do we understand how people learn a second language? It's very, very complex. It's complicated. So we're trying to get to the root of this, right? How does it work? We're we're trying to understand this as language teachers. So that's the purpose for it, that's the reason. And it's a hypothesis, once again, it's very difficult to prove. It's somewhere hidden in the brain, we can't see it. We can do some experiments to try and show our point or not. So do you think that this is still available to people later? Do you think they still have an innate ability to learn language?
Yes, to say, in my opinion, one can learn, they can acquire the first language or other languages. The 5% people can learn it. For many languages, so.
I agree with you. I think so too. Are you going to say something?
I think that the ability of learning a second language or languages is not limited. It lasts until we die.
Absolutely.
Yes, and in my own experience, I have some relatives living in Vietnam. When they live in Vietnam, they have no English at all, and they emigrated to America. They didn't take any lessons, but from listening to people around, from watching the news or interacting with people, and they come back to Vietnam. They speak Vietnamese and they insert some English vocabulary very often.
Yeah.
Right. It means that they learn, but they learn unconsciously.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I really believe that we should be lifelong learners of everything, not only languages. You're never too old. You're never too old to do another master's, to do a doctorate, to learn another language. Oh man. What?
Fossilization.
Yes. You can get fossilized, but why do people get fossilized?
Because they are not always don't have enough motivation.
They don't have enough motivation, they stopped. It's like, okay, I learned enough, this is sufficient for me, I can get by, right? Or they don't have enough input, or they don't have enough correction. But if they're aware of the fact that there's a problem, they'll look for the input or the correction somewhere else. Maybe this teacher didn't give it to me, but that teacher will, right? Or this book will, or I'll travel or get some new exposure. So it's up to us to break our own fossilization. Ultimately, our lives are our own responsibility, right? And so what we want to learn and do with our lives, it's up to us. But I think we need to continue learning and studying. It keeps you alive, right? It keeps your brain active. Otherwise, you start to die, right? Your brain slows down, you start to get Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's, right? There's research to show that learning another language prevents Alzheimer's disease. Yeah. Yeah.
We say when we get old, of course, our mind will not be sharp anymore. So if we want to sharpen our mind, we should learn another language.
Absolutely.
Don't learn maths because maybe it is so hard. But learn a language, okay? It is a good way to sharpen.
Yeah, there are many, many different things we can do. We can do crossword puzzles. You can do math puzzles too. It's anything to keep your mind active, right? You just can't stop. When you stop growing, you start dying. So there's conflicting evidence in terms of the research, but interlanguage seems to show that there is a universal grammar. So I think we can all kind of agree that yes, we still have access to it. Otherwise, people wouldn't learn a second language, right? How could you explain it? How could you explain that they learn it if they no longer have access to their innate ability? Unless we overcome it somehow, right? Were you going to say something?
What is IL?
What's IL? Interlanguage, right? Who is the theorist? Salinger. What year? Wow. Oh.
Will they appear in the quiz?
What year?
1972.
Yes.
You're kidding me.
He's right. Good job. Okay. So let's take a break and then we're going to start with our presentations, right? So can we take a 10-minute break and come back at 9:25 and then we'll have exactly 1 hour? Yeah. Okay.